Good morning, Boker Tov.
Good morning, how are you?
Very nice show yesterday.
Thank you. Good morning, how are you? Where did my shoe go? Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, good morning. So today's daf is daf Tes Zayin and Zevachim. We're going to pick up 3 lines from the bottom on Tes Vav on the base. So we started yesterday the new parak, the second parak of Zevachim, and the Mishnah started by listing off a whole series. The Talmud Torah this entire month of the month of Iyar has been sponsored by Ayal and Sarah Steinberg in honor of the yahrzeit of Ayal's mother, Elia Daphna Bas Yosef. And the breakfast this morning was sponsored by Ronald Gartenhouse for Leilui Nishmas, Ori Lipa Ben Baruch, and our Talmud Torah this morning should be in Aliyah for his neshama. Okay, so the Mishnah had listed a bunch of different people or circumstances that disqualified different karbanis. The Mishnah was written specifically by Kabbalah of accepting the blood, but it applies also to halacha and zrika. It was saying these things pasol. So the Mishnah listed off a whole series of things, and now the Gemara is going to start to go through each one. So yesterday we started with saying where do we know the halacha of zar. And so we, before we finished yesterday, we got to one, which was the pasuk we had that Vayinazru mikadshei b'nei Yisrael v'leichalu es shem kadshi, and we were trying to figure out what did b'nei Yisrael mean. What was it excluding? It couldn't be excluding women. It couldn't be excluding goyim, and therefore we came out with an understanding that said the way you have to read it is b'nei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu, that just like a kohen has to be careful from doing something with the kadshei b'nei Yisrael in Tumah, so too B'nai Yisrael has to be careful not to do things that would cause a carbon to become muchulot, to be profaned. And how would they do that? By not bringing it as a zar. So that was the first source that we had, because B'nai Yisrael v'lo yichalalu. So now we're picking up 3 lines from the bottom. Debei Rabbi Shmuel Tana. Debei Rabbi Shmuel brought a different source for the idea that a zar passes a carbon if he does Kabbalah, Halacha, or Zrika. What is that? Asya b'kavachomer mi balmum. He brings a kavachomer that it must be that a zar passes a carbon because a kavachomer from balmum. What's the kavachomer? Ma balmum she'ochel im avar chilel. If you have a balmum is allowed, as Rashi points out from the pasuk. It says mikadshei hakadashim umin hakadashim ye'achel. It says that the balmum is allowed to eat from not only from regular kachim, but even from kadshei kadashim. So he's allowed to eat kachim, even though he's a balmum. So he can't do the avodah, but he can eat kachim. So if you see a balmum, that's allowed to eat. But yet, im avad, if he does the avodah chilel, that he ruins, that he profanes the avodah. How do we know that? Rashi says the chsiv mumbo, he has a mum v'lo yichal es mikdashi. So you see that someone who has a mum causes a pasling a carbon if he does it. So therefore the kavachomer is as follows: that if a balmum is someone who's allowed to eat kachim, and yet if he does the avodah he spoils it, zar, then if you have a person who's not a kohen, she'eno ochel, who's not allowed to eat kadshei kadashim at all, that eno din shem avar chilal. So then surely kavachomer, that if the person who's allowed to eat kachim is machalal by bringing a carbon, then surely the person who's not allowed to eat kachim would also, if he does the avodah, that he causes a chilul. So the Gemara says, okay, I hear that kavachomer, but ma lebal mum shekain asabol karav kemakriv. He says, but I'll tell you, perhaps there's a stringency that relates specifically to a balmum that does not relate to a zar. What would that be? Is that a mum is something that can affect both the person who brings the carbon and the carbon itself. So if you have a kohen who's a balmum, that's a problem. If you have an animal that's a Baal Mum, that's also a problem. So there's a unique element by a Baal Mum that it's something that applies both to the offerer and the offeree, to the person bringing it and to the animal. So maybe I would tell you that shows you that there's a chumrah by Baal Mum that does not exist by Zar, and therefore you should not be able to learn out Zar from Baal Mum via a Kavul Chomer. So the Gemara says, Tamei Yochiach. I'll bring you a raya because we know that a person who's Tamei causes a chilel from this by Nazru Mikadshe B'nai Yisrael, that it says that the Kohanim have to prevent chilel by being careful with the Kachim of B'nai Yisrael. So you see that they can't be Tamei. So you see that a person who's Tamei spoils the carbon. And yet a Tamei is an example of something that does not apply both to the offerer and the animal. Why? Because while an offerer, the Kohen, could be Tamei, the animal, about an animal, at least while it's alive, obviously when it's dead it's different, but an animal while it's alive, cannot become Tamei. So therefore, you have an example of something that causes chilel, and it does not have this stringency of both the offerer and the animal having the same category, and yet you see that it causes chilel. So that proves that it's not a problem that Baal Mum has this unique feature. It does not destroy our ability to learn out Zar from Baal Mum. So the Gemara says, but I'll tell you, maybe, in other words, if you're trying to bring a proof from the case, the fact that a person who's Tamei causes a chilel when he does the avoda, I'll tell you that a Tamei person has a novelty or a stringency that if a Tamei person touches something else, according to the halachas of Tumah, he can make that Tamei. Versus a zar doesn't pass along his zarus, his non-Kohen status, but so therefore maybe I would tell you that Tumah is more chamor, and therefore a person who's Tamei is more chamor than a zar, and you should not be able to learn out a zar from Tumah. So the Gemara says, Baal Mum yochiach. So, but a Baal Mum shows you, because you see that a Baal Mum is mechalal a carbon, and yet a Baal Mum is not someone who conveys his status. So if a Baal Mum touches another person, that person doesn't become a Baal Mum. So you see that the unique element by Tumah is not a problem, because Baal Mum does not have that unique element, and yet it's a case that it causes chilel. So you see that you should be able to learn from a Tamei. The Chazar Adin, it goes backwards. If you're going to say Baal Mum, you're going to say, what about Baal Mum? It's Karv Kamakriv. So you're going to say, well, Tamei Yochiach. And if you say, well, Tamei is Metame, Baal Mum Yochiach, you're going to go in a circle. The Chazar Adin, Lari Zekri Zev, Lari Zekri Zeh. That the Chumrah, the stringency that exists in the case of Baal Mum does not exist in the case, is not the same as the one in the case of of someone who's Tamei. And the stringency in the case of someone who's Tamei, that it could be Metame, does not exist in the case of the Baal Mum. So therefore, instead of looking at their unique stringencies and chumras, look at the common element. What do they have in common? Shemuzharin, that they are warned that they're not supposed to do the avodah. V'im avdu, and if they choose to do the avodah, chilalu. So we see both by a Baal Mum and by a Tamei, if they choose to do the avodah, they cause chilal. So therefore, afani avizar. So therefore, I'm going to include zar from between the Baal Mum and the Tamei together. I'll bring zar shehu muzar, because a zar is warned not to do the avodah. V'im avad chilal, and therefore, if he does the avodah, he causes it to be mechulal. So now we have a second source for zar. Now the Gemara, this Tzara Shaveh said, in other words, it assumed anyone who's muzar, anyone who's warned not to do it or told not to bring the avodah, causes chilal. But the Gemara asks, minalan de muzar. So okay, fine. So anyone who's warned can be mechalal, but how do you know that the zar is warned against doing it? So now we're going to say as follows: Im mivi and nazru. So he says, if you're going to tell me it's from that pasuk that says Vayinazru mikadshei b'nei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu Hashem kadshi, that you should separate yourself from the kadshim of b'nei Yisrael and you shouldn't cause chilal of kodesh. So if you're going to bring that pasuk, then what's the problem with that? Is chilal begufei ksivbei. That can't be your source, because that pasuk itself says chilal. So if you're using that pasuk Vayinazru b'nei Yisrael to tell you that when you're a Kohen and you're Tamei you shouldn't do the avodah, if that's your source that a Kohen, if that's your source that a zar, I said this wrong. So if you're going to say it's from Vayinazru, so what is that talking about? Vayinazru, it's talking about not the part about the Kohen. It's talking about we darshan, the one we learned yesterday, is that you learn from Bnei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu. We said that before, that Bnei Yisrael should be careful that they don't cause chilul. How would they cause chilul? By being a zar, right? But the problem is, if that's the source to tell you that a zar is muzar and therefore fits within the tzara shaveh, what do you need the kal v'chomer at all? Why not just say the pasuk says v'lo yichalalu, just like the first opinion we had that we brought Tani Levi. So we brought Levi's opinion. So it can't be that the zar is muzar from Bnei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu, because if so, I don't need the kal v'chomer at all. I would know chilul from that source itself. So I'm still stuck with trying to figure out how I know that a zar was told not to do the avodah, such that the kal v'chomer teaches that if he does do the avodah, that it causes a chilul. So the Gemara says, "Ela mi v'zar lo yikrav aleichem," because the pasuk in Bamidbar, which says "V'nilvu alecho v'shamrus mishmer shal moed," is talking about the kohanim l'chol avodas ha'oel, that it says that the kohanim should do everything that goes on in the Mishkan. V'zar lo yikrav aleichem, and a zar should not come close to them, meaning that a zar should not do the avodah. So you see a case where the Torah tells you a zar should not do the avodah. Once you know that a zar is muzar, that he's told not to do the avodah, you could use the kal v'chomer to determine that just like Baal Mum and Tameh, if he does do the avodah, despite the fact that he's a zar, it causes a chilul. Okay, so now we're going to ask though. So ikal and mifrach, but I can ask you a question. Ma la tzara shava shebehen shekein lo yhutru bebama. He says, well, what's happening here? We know we're trying to learn from Baal Mum and Zar to, we're trying to learn from Baal Mum and Tameh to a Zar. But there's a stringency that exists with Baal Mum and a Tameh that don't exist with a Zar. What is that? Is that a Zar is allowed to bring a carbon on a Bama Kitana. So again, there was the Bama Tzibur, that in the days they didn't have the Mishkan or was allowed to have a Bama. There was the Bama that had the Karbanis Tzibur, and then there were individual Bamas, right? So Rashi goes to lengths, I'm not going to get into it now, but to show you that Tumah and Baal Mum both apply even in a Bama situation, that a Baal Mum cannot bring a carbon on a Bama, and someone who's Tameh cannot bring a carbon on a Bama. But a Zar can bring a carbon on a Bama. It's only one of the differences between it does not specifically need to be a Kohen. So you see that there's a stringency in the case of Baal Mum and Tameh over a Zar, in the fact that Baal Mum and Tameh cannot bring a carbon on a Bama and a Zar can. So you can't learn out to Zar from a combination of the Tameh and the Baal Mum. So the Gemara says, Lo tema Tameh Yochiach, you're right. So forget the fact that I told you that I brought Tameh into this. Rather, Ela Ema Onein Yochiach. So he says that it will be that Onein should prove. So how would this go? So we would start by saying we have a kal v'chomer. That by a Baal Mum, you see that a Baal Mum is allowed to eat kachim, and yet if he does avodah, he's mechalel. So too by a zar. So we're going to ask ma le Baal Mum sheken karev kemakriv, that the Baal Mum has that unique element that both the offerer and the animal can be in the category of a Baal Mum. So we say onein yochiach, and we're going to see later how you know that onein causes chilul if he does it. So onein yochiach, that it's not, it doesn't require that the offerer and the animal have the same status, because obviously an animal is not an onein. An onein is someone whose relative died, right? So onein proves that it's not so. Okay, so the Gemara continues, but okay, malo onein shekein aser b'maiser. But I'll tell you that an onein has this unique status that he's not allowed to eat maiser sheni, because we say in the pasuk, that when we talk, that a person says, I didn't eat this meiser when the person says when he was in Aninos, he didn't eat the meiser. So you see, he's not allowed to eat meiser. So meiser sheni, and yet a zar is allowed to eat meiser sheni. So how can you learn out the halach of a zar from a case of an onein? An onein has this unique stringency that he's not allowed to have. He's not allowed to eat meiser sheni. So the Gemara says, okay, I'll answer you. Baal Mum yochiach. I can prove it from Baal Mum, because Baal Mum is also not restricted from eating meiser sheni, and yet he's able to be mechalel a carbon. So it's not only someone who has that added restriction of being of being capable of being restricted from eating Meiser Sheni. V'chazar adin, and it's going to go back lo rizeh k'rizeh, that they're not similar. So in other words, if you're going to tell me try and learn from Baal Mum, I'll tell you Shekain also by Karav Kemakriv, and you'll try to learn from Onei, and I'll tell you that Meiser Sheni is Mechulot. But in other words, neither of them shares the other stringency. So therefore, it's Tzad Hashava Shebehen Shemuzharin, that they're Muzhar and they're Mechalo. So therefore. So therefore, from the Tzad HaShava, I would see that a Zar also is Muzhar, which we said from Vizar La Yikrav Aleichem is Muzhar, and therefore he would also be Mischal. So now, let's just keep in track what happened here. So the Bei Rabbi Yishmael was trying to learn a Kavachomer. The first Kavachomer we tried to learn was from Tameh and Baal Mum, and we uprooted it by saying that Tameh and Baal Mum are not allowed to make an offering on a Bama, and a Zar is. So the Gemara says, well, ask the same thing on this Kavachomer. So he says, but I'll tell you that an Onain, an Onain and a Baal Mum are not allowed to offer something on a Bama, and a Zar is. So you have the same problem. You didn't help yourself. Right? So the Gemara says, Maskefla Reb Sama Breda Rava, Uman Leimalan the Onain Aser Bebama. He says, how do you know that an Onain is Aser in a Bama? In other words, you're asking on my Kavachomer from Onain and Baal Mum together, saying those are Aser in a Bama while a Zar is Mutter. Who told you that an Onain is Aser in the Bama? Dilma Shari Babama. Maybe he's allowed to do. Maybe he's permitted to do that. Even an Onain is permitted to do it on a Bama, and therefore there is not a stringency that's unique to Onain and Baal Mum that does not apply to Zar, because both Onain and Zar are ones who are allowed to offer on the Bama. Now it's interesting that he uses this language of Shari. Dilma Shari Bibama. Maybe it's permitted in Bama. So what's the basis of this limud? The basis of the limud would be as follows: that where do we learn the halacha of an onain is because we learned that we've talked about this in the past, that the psukim that are written by Kohen Gadol says that if a Kohen Gadol's mother or a father or mother dies, he does not go out of the Beis Hamikdash and does not cause chilul by staying in the Beis Hamikdash. The implication being that's unique to Kohen Gadol. A regular Kohen, if he doesn't go out of the Beis Hamikdash and if he brings a carbon, and he's going to cause a chilul. So you see that an onain causes chilul from that pasuk umin hamikdash lo yetze, right? So therefore you would say that okay, it's in the mikdash that onain is a problem, not in a bama, right? So you should be able to prove that in fact an onain can make an offering on the bama. So why does the Gemara say Dilma? So the Tazar Ben Peretz and others discuss because maybe the Kohen, in other words, maybe the fact that it's written by Kohen Gadol was coming to tell you, in other words, was just coming to tell you the Niyuk Din by Kohen Gadol in the Beis HaMikdash, but it's not necessarily the implication out. We'll see, this is, according to Rashi, the reason Rav Mesharshia brings a different view. But in any event, so we have our first...
In the case of the Kohen Gadol, who's owning, isn't it the fact that he has that communal responsibility so that supersedes his loss of relative? Whereas if somebody's an owning, just losing his own relative, but he doesn't have that communal responsibility, so you can't learn it out. You can't learn it out from a Kohen Gadol because he's different than a regular owning.
Right, but in other words, it's just saying the whole source of the regular Kohen that he can't stay in when he's an onain is that's learned out by negative implication from the Kohen Gadol. In other words, that's the source for the idea that we're actually going to get into that in detail on Amud Beis. So we'll talk about that. Okay, so just to keep track of where we were, we had the pasuk Vayinazru b'nei Yisrael v'lo yechalalu. So that was the Debei Levi. Then we had the Debei Rabbi Yishmael, brought it from a Kavachomer, and it's a good Kavachomer. And we answered all the questions. The only thing was that there was a Dilma in there. It says maybe an onain's allowed to bring on the Bama. So Rashi learns that that's why Rav Mesharshia brings now a third source for the idea that a Zar causes chilal if he brings a carbon. So Rav Mesharshia says, "Asim kavachomer mi Yoshev." I'll bring you a kavachomer from the case of someone who does the avoda while he's seated. So in fact, that was one of the cases that we learned in the Mishnah that causes chilal. So we're going to say that if you bring a kavachomer from Yoshev, you'll learn that a Zar also causes chilal. So ma Yoshev. So what's the kavachomer? Ma Yoshev she'ochel im avad chilal. Zar she'eno ochel eno dim shem avad chilal. He says as follows: that if someone who's seated is allowed to eat kudshim Now, mind you, this would have to be kachim kalam, because in the Beis Hamikdash you're not allowed to sit. You're not allowed to sit there. Ela malchis Beis David, right? So it has to be talking about kachim kalam, but it's fine. So it's saying that if you have a person who's sitting, that he's allowed to eat kachim kalim, that kachim kalim that are the portion of the Kohen. We'll see why that's important in a moment. That im avad, that if he does the avoda, even though he's someone who's allowed to eat the kohanic portions of kachim kalim, that if he does the avoda, it causes a chilul. That a zar she'eno ochel, who's not allowed to eat the kohanic portions of kachim kalim. Now, obviously, a zar can eat certain kachim kalim because there's parts of the carbon that he can eat, but he can't eat the kohanic portions of the kachim kalim. And yet, so therefore, for sure, kavachomer ein adin shem avad chilal. So if the person, the yoshev, who is allowed to eat, can cause a chilal, then the zar, who's not allowed to eat, for sure should cause a chilal if he does the avoda. Okay, so that's the kavachomer. So the Gemara says, mali yoshev shekem pasal le'edos. So the Gemara says, how can you bring a raya from a yoshev to a zar? A yoshev has a unique element, that this category of being a yoshev has a double stringency. A, it tells you that if someone does the avoda, that causes a chilal, and B, we know that a person who's seated has a stringency that he's not allowed to. Hopefully, if we have a few minutes at the end, we'll talk a little bit more about this. But we know that if someone is seated, they can't give edus, because we learn from the pasuk that he says, because the Gemara in Shavuos says, the pasuk says amdu shnei ha'anashim, that the two men stand up, which we understand in Shavuos is talking about the edim. So you see that if edim are seated, it passes the edus. So the Gemara's question is, how can you learn to a zar from a case of yoshev? Yoshev is unique in that it has two elements of stringency, both by that he causes chilul by an avoda, and the fact that he can't testify while he's seated. So how are you going to learn from that to a zar? So the Gemara says, okay, I'll make it easier. He says, me yoshev tamud chacham, right? So the Gemara says, okay, so for those of us who remember that we dealt with this in Shavuos at length, this idea that a Talmud Chacham is able to sit down in front of Bezdin because of the covet of the Talmud Chacham. So you were asking on a Yoshev that I tried to bring a Kavod Chomer from a Yoshev. You said Yoshev has double stringency because it's Pasal Eidus if he's seated. So I'll bring it to you from a Yoshev Talmud Chacham, because a Yoshev Talmud Chacham is allowed to be seated during Eidus. So he only has one Chomer, which is that it's Chilel, and therefore we could learn to a Zar, and you can't say a Zar is less stringent than a Yoshev. So the Gemara says, Ma l'shem Yoshev shekem pasol eidus. He says, okay, so you're playing games with me. I told you a Yoshev. You said Yoshev Talmud Chacham. But I'll just tell you, you shouldn't be able to learn from a Yoshev at all, because Yoshev, writ large, in general, a Yoshev is someone who has double stringency. He can't do the avoda, and he's pasol eidus. I'll bring it from the broad category of eidus. So the Gemara gives two answers. The first answer is, Shem Yoshev lo parach. He says, that's not a good question. He says, when I'm trying to bring you a Kavod Chomer, learn one thing from another, you have to deal with the category I give you, which is a Yoshev Talmud Chacham, and that I could bring a Kavod Chomer from. The fact that the Yoshev Talmud Chacham is part of the larger universe of a Yoshev doesn't mean you can ask for me on a halacha that does not apply to the Yoshev Talmud Chacham. I brought you a case from Yoshev Talmud Chacham, not from Yoshev generally. V'im tim salamar parech, and if you're going to tell me that that's not a good answer, and that you're able to ask from the broader category of Yoshev, and say the broader category of Yoshev has a double stringency in that it's Mechal Avoda and that it's Pasal Eidus, then I'll tell you, Asya me Yoshev umechad me Hanach. So he says, okay, fine. So then, if you're telling me that this Yoshev is a problem, then I'll bring it by a Tzara Shaveh. So he says, give me a Yoshev and any one of the others we've talked about so far, which is a Tameh, a Balmum, and an Oneg. So how would this work? So let's say it's a Tameh. So you would say that a Yoshev is a Kavod Chomer, that if a Yoshev is allowed to eat, and if he does the Avodah, it's Chilal, then a Zar who's not allowed to eat, for sure when he does the Avodah, it should be Mechulal, right? So you say, so he says, Ma le Yoshev, that a Yoshev has the stringency of that it has both pasal edus and chilul avoda, so I'll tell you tamei yochiach, right? That tamei proves that it does not have pasal edus, and yet the avoda is muchulo. So I'll tell you mala tamei shekain metame, that tamei is metame. So I'll tell you about mum yochiach, and we'll go back in circles. Or you could say that you could say mala onein. So you tell me, what about onein that he's meiser sheni? So you say ba mum yochiach. Or you could bring it from, the case of, Balmum and the Yoshev. So you say that the Yoshev has the double stringency. You say Balmum Yochiach, it doesn't have the double stringency. Mala Balmum Shekain Karev Kemakrev, that it applies both to the animal and offerer. So then you would say Yoshev Yochiach, because Yoshev, the fact that someone is a Yoshev doesn't make his animal a Yoshev. So therefore we would be able to bring it out. From there. Now let's keep track of the structure of what happened here. We had a kavachomer, and we asked on it because we said that how can you bring from a tamei and a balmum, because both of those are not allowed to bring a carbon on a bama, while a zar is allowed to bring a carbon on the bama. So the Gemara rejected that kavachomer and said, rather I'll bring you the kavachomer from balmum and onein together, right? And then the Gemara asked on that and left off that maybe an onein is like a zar in that they're both able to bring on a bama, right? So Rabbi Misharshia didn't like the maybe. He wanted a case that for sure you can't bring it on the bama, right? So Rabbi Misharshia brought his own kavachomer. So it must be that Rabbi Misharshia felt that the sources that he's bringing from now are not a problem on the bama. You can't say that they're unique on the bama as distinct, that they can't do it on the bama and a zar can. It must be that Reb Misharshia has fixed matters by finding a case that the zar is just like that case, and therefore they're both able to bring it on the bama. So since his new element that he introduced to this discussion, we know that a balmum and a tamei cannot bring on a bama. A onein can maybe not bring on a bama. So how do you know that a Yoshev absolutely can't bring on a bama, and therefore you've made it better than the prior two cases? The Yoshev, the kasher bebama minala, and how do I know that a Yoshev is allowed to offer it on a bama? Amar kra, because the pasuk says by a kohen. Where do I know that a kohen is supposed to stand and not sit? Because it says lamod lifnei Hashem l'sharso, that the pasuk in Devarim that says he should stand before Hashem to serve him. So from that we learn that a kohen needs to stand, right? But where does that apply? Lifnei Hashem v'lo lifnei bama. So the pasuk that says he needs to stand has to do when he's standing before Hashem, which means he's in the Beis Hamikdash, not when he's standing in front of a bama. So therefore you see that a Yoshev, the halacha of needing Amidah, is unique to the Beis Hamikdash and does not apply by a bama. So therefore the question that plagued 1.5 of the prior derivations, first the tamei and the balmum, and then the balmum and the onein as a half, does not apply by a Yoshev, because a Yoshev clearly is allowed to bring a carbon on a bama just like a zar, and therefore you can't say that you should not be able to learn out a zar from there. Okay, so we have now completed 3 sources for why a zar causes chilal by a why a zar causes chilal by avoda, either from mibnei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu, or from the kavachomer from balmum, or from the kavachomer of balmum together with onein, or from the kavachomer of the direct kavachomer of Yoshev, or the kavachomer of Yoshev together with either tamei, onein, or balmum. So those are the 3 sources. So we have the mibnei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu, from balmum, and from Yoshev. Okay, fine. So now the Gemara goes on to the next case of the Mishnah, which is how do we know an onein causes the avoda to be mechulo, that it causes a chilal. Okay, onein minalan dichsiv, because it's written. Now I referenced this particular source before. It says umen amigdash lo yetze v'lo yechalo, because by the Kohen Gadol, it says that when this is written in the parsha which we're dealing with now, where now during these week's parshas, where if the Kohen Gadol his mother or father died, it says that he's not matame to them, and then it goes on to say that he doesn't go out of the Beis HaMikdash and doesn't cause chilo. The implication being ha'acher, if it's anyone other than the Kohen Gadol who lost his mother and his father and therefore is in a category of onein, shelo yatsa, if he doesn't go out, chilo, it causes chilo. So what do you see? You see that you see that a regular Kohen, by doing the avoda when he's in onein, causes chilel. So that's source number one. Okay, so now we're going to say as follows. Rabbi Elazar brings a different source, and Rabbi Elazar Amar Mehacha from here, because the pasuk says, Hein hikrivu ani hikravti. Okay, so this requires a little bit of explanation. We have a chumash. Okay, so basically what happened was that we had on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the year after Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim, and you had the Chanukas HaMishkan, and you had all these karbanos. And remember, what happened also on that day is that Nadav and Avihu brought the carbon that they weren't supposed to bring, and they died, right? And so that was the story that goes on when you get to Perek Yud in Vayikra. So it talks about Yichu b'nei Aaron Nadav Avihu ish machta, so they brought the fire that they weren't supposed to bring, and they got burned. And Moshe said to Aaron, B'kroiveh Kadesh, etc., etc. They told Mishol and Al-Tzafon that they should go bring out Nadav and Avihu, and then it told them various halachas. It then proceeds to talk about to talk about not drinking wine. It talks about that what they could do with the rest of the offerings from that day, right? And then it talks about certain things that the Kohanim are entitled to. Okay, the tenufa, the chazav v'shok, etc. I'm sorry, the chazav v'shok, and then the different things that they're able to eat. And then there's a passage in the Torah which goes as follows: V'si'ir achatos darosh darash Moshe, that Moshe kept asking about the Sir Achatas. What was the Sir Achatas? Because remember, this was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So on Rosh Chodesh, you bring a Sa'ir, right? So Moshe kept asking, what happened with the Sir Achatas? V'hine Sarov, it got burnt up. Vayiktzov al Elazar v'Elisamar b'nei Aaron hanosarim lemar, and Moshe got upset at Elazar and Isamar, saying, Madua lo achaltam as achatas b'mkom hakodesh. Why didn't you eat the chatas in the Makom HaKodesh? Ki Kodesh Kodashim, because it's Kodesh Kodashim. Osa nasan lechem l'seis avon oida l'chaper aleim l'fnei Hashem. That this is there for the Kohanim. Hein lo huvas damo el HaKodesh penima ochol tochlu osoba Kodesh kasher tzivesi. He says you should have brought this carbon. So basically Moshe got upset at them, saying you didn't bring the sa'ir of Rosh Chodesh. Vayedaber Aaron al Moshe. And Aaron said to Moshe, Hein hayom hikrivu es chatasom es olasam lifnei Hashem. He says, behold, today they brought their chatas and their olah lifnei Hashem, but the krena osi, he said, and this would happen to me, ka'ela v'achalti chatas hayom, hayita b'nei Hashem, would it be good if I ate the chatas today? Vayishma Moshe listened, vayita b'einav, and it was good in his eyes. So this is a very strange passage. He was Moshe Rabbeinu was asking, what's going on with the Sa'ir? And then basically Aaron said, you really don't want me to eat the Sa'ir, and then Moshe was satisfied, right? So there's a machlokes as follows later on in Zevachim, which has to do with the following. There's two versions of what happened here. The first version, which is Reb Nehemiah, is as follows: that Moshe Rabbeinu came and said, Why didn't you eat the sa'ir? Why didn't you bring the sa'ir? Why did you burn it? You're supposed to have eaten it, not burnt it. To which Aaron says, it's because of aninos, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, the way we're going to understand now, Moshe Rabbeinu says, you're saying you messed up with aninos. Did Elazar and Isamar, who are onanim, did they bring the carbon? In which case, that would make sense why you had to burn it, because it causes chilel, right? Which is, by the way, that's going to be our source right now. But in other words, so the Moshe said to Aaron, did they bring it when they were onanim? To which Aaron responds and he says, Hein hayom hikrivu. Do you think they brought it? And this is what our Gemara adds in. Ani hikravti. I brought it. and I brought it. And therefore I, as a Kohen Gadol, Aaron was a Kohen Gadol, am allowed to bring a carbon ba'aninos, right? So then, what? I'm going to explain in a minute. So he says, Aaron Kohen says, I brought it. So it was not a problem that it was brought by an Onain. Well, it was brought by an Onain, but it was me, Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, was allowed to bring it. So then the question becomes, why did it get burnt then? In other words, why did they burn it? In other words, if Aaron brought it and it was a valid carbon, because according to Reb Nehemiah, I mentioned this yesterday in passing, that there's a machlokas min Torah in the Tanaim, which is this machlokas Tanaim, about whether aninos, the biblical status of aninos, does it go? We talked about Rashi yesterday. Said that interesting thing about it going till the time the body's buried. But the way we learned that min Torah, it either goes to the night after someone loses their relative, meaning the rest of that day they're an onain, and then at night they're not an onain, or it goes through the following night, right? And therefore, only at the morning, their aninos lifted. Reb Nehemiah is the one who's of the opinion that it follows through the night. So what happened here? Aaron HaKohen brought the carbon, the sa'ir of Rosh Chodesh. He did it while he was in Onain, but that's okay because he was a Kohen Gadol, and a Kohen Gadol is allowed to bring while he's in Onain. But the problem was there was no one who could eat it because Aaron and his sons were in the Onain status from Nadav and Avihu who died, and according to Reb Nehemiah, it goes through the night. And a chatas, the sa'ir that you're going to bring, a chatas on Rosh Chodesh, can only be eaten that day and that night. So there's no point at which they would have been able to eat it. And the halacha is, that we see this Rashi brings from a carbon Pesach, that if there's no one who could eat it, then you burn it right away. So that's what happened is, Moshe said, what's going on? Why did you burn the sa'ir? Aaron said, because of aninos. Moshe said, oh, did they offer? That's what happened. Not even, that Elazar and Isamar brought it when they were aninim, when they were an onain, and that's the reason that you needed to burn it. So Aaron says, no, they didn't bring it. I brought it. So it's not a problem of having been brought by an onain, but it is a problem because there was no one who could eat it, right? So that's one view in the Tanaim, and that's how we're understanding this thing. But what do you see from this implied conversation in the Psukim between Aaron and Moshe? Is that Moshe says, they both seem to agree that had Elazar and Isamar brought the carbon while they were in Onain, then in fact it would make sense why you have to burn the carbon because it would cause a chilo. So from that conversation, you see that there was, you see that this idea that an Onain who brings a carbon causes chilo. Okay? So the...
Can you please give the questions for the end of the queue? Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I apologize because we're at time is a little tight. Okay, so you could ask me afterwards. I'm sorry. Mechlal, the Gemara says the inu akriv shapir is taruf, that had Elazar and Isamar brought the carbon, it would have been appropriate that it should have gotten burnt. Okay, so fine. So now we have two sources. We have umin hamigdash lo yetze, and we have from hein hikrivu. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Elazar, my time alay amar. Why doesn't he learn it from the pasuk that says the Kohen Gadol doesn't go out? The implication being that a regular Kohen has to go out. Did it say that the other person, that the Kohen that doesn't go out causes chilul? In other words, you're making a reverse inference from the Kohen Gadol. He said. Who said that? And Rashi says, Dilma acher nami lo chilel. Maybe a regular Kohen also does not cause chilel when he brings it banidus. Ubedidei istrich leil misharye. And they needed it by the Kohen Gadol, the lotema mitoch shivuso ukdushaso yisera who pasel onein. Because I might think, and this is what I referenced before, the idea might be that maybe a Kohen Gadol has some elevated kedusha, and you would think that even though a regular Kohen is allowed to bring a carbon when he's in Onain, but a Kohen Gadol would not be allowed to bring a carbon when he's in Onain, comes the pasuk to tell you that even a Kohen Gadol can bring it when he's in Onain. So Rabbi Elazar does not like to bring it from Min HaMikdash Lo Yetze because he says maybe you're not supposed to make a reverse inference to a regular Kohen from the Kohen Gadol. Maybe the purpose of the pasuk is to tell you that while a regular Kohen can bring an Onain, also a Kohen Gadol can bring it as an Onain. And therefore, if that's the purpose of the pasuk, there's no reverse inference to a regular Kohen. So that's why Rabbi Elazar does not like Min HaMikdash Lo Yetze, and he'd rather bring it from the story with Aaron and Moshe. The Idach. And according to one who brings it from Umna Migdash Lo Yetze and doesn't bring it from Hein hikrivu hayom, my time alom or mehen hikrivu. So he says, kasavar mipnei tuma nisrafa. He says that, no, you got the story wrong with what happened there, because according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, later in our Masechta, they understand as follows. They had no problem, the carbon did not get burnt because there was no one to eat it. Why? Because they hold that aninus ends at the end of the day. So therefore, and a carbon, the period at which you could eat it extends through the night. So they could have eaten it after the night. So you can't tell me that it got burnt because aninus, it got burnt because it became tummy. So then, what was the conversation back and forth between Aaron and Moshe? Moshe said, "Why did you burn the carbon and you didn't eat it?" And they said, because of aninos. To which he said, so basically what they said back is that because we were onanim, therefore we pushed off the eating, and that caused it to become tameh. So the way they have to understand the story, because they had no problem, they didn't burn it because they couldn't eat it, because they could eat it at night. So the way they understood it became tameh. So what did it happen? What does it have to do with aninos? They said, since they were onanim during that day, Aaron and Elazar and Isamar were onanim, so they couldn't eat the carbon, and they had to leave it till the night. While it was sitting around there, something happened and became tameh, and they burnt it. So they told Moshe Rabbeinu, we would have eaten it, but it became tameh, and that's why I had to burn it. Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, fine, tuma happens. Okay, so that's how Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon understand the story with Aaron and Moshe. So if that was the question, that they were saying aninus had nothing to do with whether the carbon was disqualified, it just had to do with explaining how it came to be that the carbon became tameh. So because they understand it that way, they did not want to learn out the halacha that an onain causes chilel from the story of Hein Yakrivu, because it had nothing to do with offering as an onain. It was just an explanation for how it became tameh. Okay, fine. So we now have two sources for onain. Debei Rabbi Shmuel, Tana. The Debei Rabbi Shmuel brought a kavachomer, and this is hopefully going to be a quick Gemara because we've basically had these next couple things before. Also, he brings a kavachomer from Baal Mum. Umma Baal Mum. So we're on Amma Beis with just a few minutes left. Umma Baal Mum she'ochel, that Baal Mum, that he's allowed to eat kadshe kadashim im avad, if he does the avodah chilel. So then for sure an onain she'ein ochel, that who's not allowed to eat the kadshe kadashim ein odin shem avad chilel, that if he does the avodah causes chilel. So you see that that an onain, you should learn an onain out from the Baal Mum. So the Gemara says, Mal Baal Mum shekein asbal krevim kumakriven. But I'll tell you that the Baal Mum has a unique feature in that both the Kohen who offers the carbon and the carbon itself has a problem with a mum. So we say Zar Yochiach. So now at this point, remember, we've already brought 3 reasons before to tell us that a Zar causes chilel. So now we can use the Zar in our calculation. So we say the Zar proves, because even though a Zar is a psul only in the person and not in the animal, there's no such thing as a Zar animal. So and yet it causes chilel. So you see that unique feature of Baal Mum is not dispositive. Malazar shekain ein lo takana. So you'll tell me, how can you compare Zar to an onain? A Zar is someone who's never going to be able to eat kadshe kadashim, who's never going to be able to do the avodah. Whereas a Kohen who's an onain, he can't do it right now, but he'll be able to do it. He'll be able to do it tomorrow, right? So therefore, how can you bring a raya to a onain from a Zar? A Zar is much stricter than an onain, because a Zar can never become mutter. We say Baal Mum Yochiach. Baal Mum proves. Why? Because not every mum is permanent. There's such a thing as a temporary mum, and yet he's going to be able to do avodah in the future when his mum heals, and yet we say that it causes chilel. So you see the fact that it's temporary in nature, that a temporary nature, it still causes chilel. So to an onain, which is temporary nature, should be able to cause chilel. V'chazar adin, and it goes back. Lo rizek rizev, lo rizek rizeh, that their elements of stringency are not shared. So one has takana and one is craving k'makrivin. Hatzara shavash behen. But you look at the commonality they have, shein muzarin, that they're told not to do the avodah v'yim avdu, and both by a Zar and a Baal Mum, if they do the avodah, causes chilu. Afani avi onain, so avi onain, so too I'm going to learn out onain from the case of Zor and Balmum, Shemuzar, because Onain is Muzar, V'im Avad, and if he does the Avodah, Chilel. Okay, so now, again, the Tzad HaShava said that just like a Balmum and a Zor, the Onain is warned not to do the Avodah. So now the Gemara is going to say, Heichad Muzar. Where do we see that the Onain is told not to do the Avodah? If you're going to tell me it's from Minam Migdash Lo Yetze, that pasuk, and that's how I know, because it says that the Kohen Gadol doesn't go out of the Beis Hamikdash when he's in Onain, but a regular Kohen does, and that's where a Kohen is warned. But he says, if so, why do I need the whole Kal V'chomer? That pasuk that says Minam Migdash Lo Yetze V'lo Yichalalu, right, is telling you that there's chilel if a regular Kohen does it. So that can't be the source that Kohen's mentioned, because we're trying to figure out how do we know that a Kohen is warned so that it can fit into the Kal V'chomer. But if the Kohen is warned and told that it's chilel, then we don't need the Kal V'chomer to begin with. So he can't be using that source, similar to what we learned before. Ella mevehein hikrivu. That he says, but rather it's learned from Hein ekrivu ukesavar mipnei aninos nisrafa. So he says, where do we learn that a Kohen is not supposed to, that an Onain is warned not to do the avodah, is because by Aaron HaKohen and Moshe Rabbeinu, that we learned that Elazar and Isamar weren't supposed to do the carbon, right? So therefore, you see that an Onain is told not to do the avodah. Now, what questions should we have? Now questions are allowed. Okay, so the question we should have, which Rashi asks, is the following. But say that source also shows that it's chilel, because Moshe Rabbeinu had this conversation with Aaron, and he said, Aaron said, you thought that they brought it, in which case it would have been mechulel. That's not what happened. I brought it, right? But from the back and forth, you see that not only that an onain is not supposed to offer it, but that if he does offer it, it causes chilel, right? So Rashi explains, he says, So he says, so Rashi recasts a little bit how this goes, because they didn't have anyone to eat it, who could appreciate it. So Moshe Rabbeinu came and said, why did you burn it and you didn't eat it? They said, because of aninos. Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake, because savar shekrivu onanim, and he thought that they brought it as onanim. And he said to them, Shema ba'anina sekrivua, maybe you brought it when you were onanim, right? In which case, he was just saying to them that was the wrong thing to do. So he says, but not necessarily did Moshe Rabbeinu say that there would have been chilo. The ilav hava amina had armalu Shema ba'anina sekraftam. So he says as follows, that Rashi is going to say, I'm going to recast the conversation a little bit. Before we said that Aaron and Moshe were agreeing that if you would have brought the carbon be'aninos, then it would have made sense why you burnt it. Rashi's saying, not so fast. They didn't have that detailed level of a conversation. Moshe Rabbeinu came and said, why did you burn the soyer? They said, because of aninos. Moshe Rabbeinu said, are you telling me they brought it when they were on an onain? But he doesn't really say what would happen then. He says, no, they didn't bring it as an onain. I brought it, and the reason it got burnt is because there was no one who could eat it that night. So he's just saying, Rashi's saying, the way this view, if you want to find a source where onain is told not to do the avodah, but it's not clear that if he does the avodah that's chilel, you would interpret the conversation between Moshe and Aaron as getting into less level of detail, and therefore, when Moshe said, are you telling me they brought it as onanim, maybe he was only commenting on the fact that they weren't supposed to do that. He never got down to the level of saying that it causes chilel. Okay, so that's how you know that an onain is muzar, and once you know an onain is muzar, then you can learn it out from the Kal V'chomer, from Balmum and Zor together. Okay, the Gemara says, Ikal mifrach malat hadashav shaban shekain lo yutra miklolo. So now the Gemara says, you're trying to bring me a raya from Zor and Balmum. He says, Zor and you're trying to learn to the case of an onain. He says, Zor and Balmum have a chumrah that there's no exceptions to that rule. A Zor can never do the avodah that's for a Kohen, and a Balmum can never do the avodah that's for a Kohen. As distinct from what are we trying to learn out to onain? Onain, we find a case where the rules of Onain are waived. What is that? The Kohen Gadol, because the Kohen Gadol is allowed to bring Baninos. So he says, so maybe that's a Chumrah by Balmum and Zar, that they're never released, whereas an Onain is released. So the Gemara says, Tameh Yochiach. But Tameh proves. Why? Because we know the halacha is by Tumah, that Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, or not just Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, I'm sorry, it says B'mo'ado, that you should bring the carbon tzibur in its time, and we learn that you should bring the carbon tzibur in its time, even if the person bringing it is Tameh. So you see that there is a case where Tumah has an exception, and yet in the ordinary course where it's not, the exception does not apply, it causes Chilo, so Tameh Yochiach. So the Gemara says, Mala Tameh Shekem Tameh. But the Tameh Kohen that causes Chilo has the unique element that when a Tameh person can make someone else Tameh. So the Gemara says, Hanach Yochichu. These others, meaning that Balmum and Zar prove that Balmum and Zar don't pass along their status, and yet it causes Chilo by them. So it's not a problem. V'chazar adin, and you'll tell me Mala Hanach that there's no exception. So we'll say that Tameh Yochiach, and I Tameh Sheken Metame, it goes in a circle. Hatzara Shavash Ben Shemuzharin, and that once they're muzhar, they're also called chilo. The Gemara says, "V'lifrach mala hatzara Shavash Ben Sheken Lo Hutra B'Chlalon Eitz Kohen Gadol B'Karban Yachid." So the Gemara says, okay, but I'll find you a more. I'll tell you that you see by both a Balmum and a Tameh and a Zar, that there's no exceptions to them in a carbon yachid of a Kohen Gadol, right? And the only place you have an exception by a carbon yachid of a Kohen Gadol is by an Onain. So in other words, this is similar to Yoshev and Yoshev Talmud Chacham. We're taking it down a level of granularity and restricting it to the carbon yachid of a Kohen Gadol, so then you're able to say that those all three, that a Zar, a Balmum, and a Tameh all have the element that there's never an exception, versus Onain, there is an exception. The Gemara says, Shem Tumah Mia Ishtarya. But at the end of the day, there is an exception to Tumah, and there's an exception to Onain. And so you see from Tumah that the fact that there's an exception does not preclude it from causing chilo, because a tameh also causes chilo. Reb Misharshia, okay, so now we have three sources. The first source was Min HaMegdash LaYetze, the second was from Heinik Krivu, and the third is from Balmum together with Zar. Okay, so the Gemara now asks, Reb Misharshia Amar Asi B'Kavachomer from Yoshev. You could bring the Kavachomer from Yoshev. So this is very much like what we had on Amalf. Uma Yoshev Sha'ochel, just someone who's seated when he's in Yerushalayim, is able to eat kachim kalim, that's the Kohanic portion. Im avad, if he does the avodah when he's seated chilel, he causes chilel. Then onein sheino ochel, and onein who's not able to eat the Kohanic portions of the kachim kalim, eno din shem avad chilel, then surely kavachomer, if he does the avodah, should cause chilel. So the Gemara would say, ma li Yoshev shekem pasol edis. So what about the fact so that a Yoshev has a double stringency that it applies both by Eidos and by Avodah? So you say me Yoshev Talmud Chacham. So I learn it out from a Yoshev Talmud Chacham who does not have the psul in Eidos because he's able to sit down for Eidos. So the Gemara says, Mala Shem Yoshev Shekem Pasul Eidos. He says, okay, fine. So you found me a case of Talmud Chacham who's a Yoshev, doesn't apply specifically, but the category, he's within the category of Yoshev, and the category of Yoshev has this double stringency of both being precluded from the Avodah and being precluded from giving Eidos that way. So we say, Shem Yoshev Lo Parach, he doesn't look at that global thing, you just look at where you're bringing the proof from, and we're bringing it from a Talmud Chacham Yoshev. The Gemara says, V'yem Tim Tzalomer, and if you're going to say, V'yem Tim Tzalomer Parach, if you're going to say that that's a valid question, and you ask him Yoshev writ large, Asiyam Yoshev V'chad Mehanach, then you could bring the Yoshev together with one of these other things, and you'll say you'll say the Tzara Shava Shebehan, and you prove it that way. Okay, so we ended up with four sources for Onain and Amigdash Yetze, Heinik Krivu, Balmum and Onain, and Yoshev together with any of those others. Okay, now Onain Pasul. So the Gemara, the Mishnah said that an Onain is Pasul, right? And Rava is going to tell you, Amar Rava. I'm sorry that we're going so over time here. Okay, Amar Rava Loishanu Ela B'Karban Yachid, Ava B'Karban Sibor Meratza. So we understood. And it's worth looking at Rashi here. We'll look at Rashi. We'll look at Rashi in a second. We've understood. We know the halacha is that he says that in Onain, that an onain, a regular onain, cannot bring a carbon and causes a psul, but a kohen gadol can. So when we're saying that when a regular kohen cannot bring a carbon, that's only a carbon yachid. But when it comes to carbon tzibor, even a regular kohen who's an onain can bring the carbon tzibor. Now the Gemara says, how would I know this? Rava says, kavachomer mi toma, because I'll bring you a kavachomer from toma. Ma toma shaloi hutra miklala etzel kohen gadol b'carbon yachid. That you see that toma, which is not allow the kohen gadol to bring his own carbon. A kohen gadol's tamei cannot bring his own carbon. Hutra etzel hedyot b'carbon tzibor. But we said before, it comes b'moado that any kohen can bring a carbon tzibor even when he's tamei, right? So you see that we're more strict with an individual kohen gadol than we are with a kohen hedyot when it comes to carbon tzibor. So therefore, anino shehutra miklala etzel kohen gadol, that we make an exception by a kohen gadol of a carbon yachid and his carbon yachid, eino din shehutra etzel kohen hedyot b'carbon tzibor. So he says, then surely the kohen hedyot, when he's in onain, should be able to bring it, because he's saying as follows: if you see that a carbon tzibor allows you to do something even when a kohen gadol cannot, in the case of toma, then where the kohen gadol can, for sure the tzibor can. So therefore, a regular kohen, when we say that a regular kohen cannot bring something as an onain, it's only if that regular kohen is bringing a carbon yachid, but not if he's bringing a carbon tzibor. Maskef la Rava bar Iloi, and Rava bar Iloi asks three things that he wants to learn out. He's basically saying, Rava, you're messing with things here. And so now we should see Rashi. It's very important, Rashi, that Maskif la Rava bar Iloi ad the Rava parach. He's asking on Rava. He says, because Rava made a cheshbon. In his Kal V'chomer, he took three things for granted, the way the pasuk wrote them, the straight implication from the pasuk, without making Kal V'chomers. And Rava himself acknowledged these in the Kal V'chomer he made. What are those things? The pshitole, the tumma loy hutra kohen gadol b'carbon yachid midelo ashkech and ashtarya el b'tzibor. He's saying that the Rava assumed that a kohen gadol, when he brings a carbon yachid, is not able to bring it except when it's a tzibor. In other words, that even as a yachid, the kohen gadol cannot bring it betuma. So that was pasha to him, because Rashi says, because the pasuk didn't tell you that it was permitted except by a tzibor. So therefore, it doesn't apply by a yachid even if he's a kohen gadol. Upshitale duhutra b'tzibor afilu etzel kohen hedyot. And moreover, he said that it was clear to Rava that when it was a carbon tzibor, that even a kohen hedyot can bring in, and not just the kohen gadol, midi ishrei stama, because the pasuk said b'moado, you bring it in its time, and it doesn't distinguish between a kohen and a kohen gadol. Upshitale. Furthermore, part of Rava's underlying premise was the aninos hutra afilu b'carbon yachid etzel kohen gadol, that when we say a kohen gadol can bring a carbon when he's in onain, it's true whether it's a carbon yachid or a carbon tzibor, mid ishrei stama, because the pasuk didn't distinguish, right? So he's saying, I just brought you three things that were all underlying premises of Rava. Why did Rava assume these things? Because the pasuk didn't distinguish, right? So it was reasonable to assume all of these things. Ube iser aninos etzel kohen hedyot. But he says, but yet there's a fourth thing that the pasuk doesn't distinguish, which is it says that a kohen hedyot does not bring a carbon when he's in onain, and Rava is using this Kal V'chomer to say that when does he not bring it as an onain, even though the pasuk says it, or the implication of the pasuk says it categorically, yet he's going to distinguish and say there's a difference whether it's done b'yachid or b'tzibor. So basically, Rava bar Ilai is going to say, if you're going to, you took three statements of the psukim at face value, and a fourth one, you're making a Kal V'chomer. Rava bar Ilai is going to say, I'm going to show you that for all three of those rules that you took for granted, I could make you an equivalent Kal V'chomer, and you'll see that I could uproot all those things that you took for granted. So here we go. Maskefla Rava bar Ilai. Lo tosar aninos etzel kohen gadol b'carbon yachid mikal v'chomer. He says, you assumed he says, you assume that a kohen gadol is able to bring his carbon when he's in onain, whether it's a yachid or rabbim. I'll show you from a Kal V'chomer that he cannot do it when it's a carbon yachid, even though you thought he could. Why? Because I'll say, Uma toma shehutra etzel kohen hedyot b'tzibor. We see that toma by a tzibor that even a kohen hedyot whose tame can do it, lo hutra etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid. So then, yet a kohen gadol, in other words, by a tzibor, a regular kohen can do it betuma, but a kohen gadol by his own carbon cannot do it. So aninos, then in the case of aninos, shelo hutra etzel kohen hedyot b'karban tzibor, where the regular kohen hedyot could not do it even when it's a carbon tzibor, because that's an exception that's unique to tuma and that's not written by aninos. Eino din shelo tosar etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid. So therefore, I would make a kal v'chomer to tell you that a kohen gadol cannot bring a carbon yachid when he's in onein, and when it says that a kohen gadol can bring a carbon when he's in onein, is only by a tzibor, right? So he says, if you use this kind of logic of a kal v'chomer, I'll prove to you the opposite of something you took for granted. You took for granted that a kohen gadol in onein can bring a carbon whether it's a yachid or a tzibor. Using the same logic, I'll prove to you that he can't do it when he's a yachid, only when he's a tzibor. He says a second thing, v'tosar tuma etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid mikal v'chomer. He says, and moreover, you said that a kohen gadol, that when he brings a carbon yachid, he's not able to bring it betuma. It's only by a carbon tzibor. I'll prove to you that he can bring it a carbon yachid mikal v'chomer. I'll make you the same kal v'chomer. Umma aninos shelo hutar etzel kohen hedyot b'karban tzibor. That you see that by aninos, when even by a tzibor, a regular kohen cannot bring it. Hutra etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid. So that yet, while a tzibor was not enough to do it for a kohen hedyot, the kohen gadol was able to bring any kind of carbon, even a carbon yachid by aninos. So then tuma shehutra etzel kohen hedyot b'karban tzibor. Then tuma, that by the tzibor does allow it to be overridden, which it does not allow by aninos. Then eino din, that therefore kal v'chomer, when you get to the kohen gadol, shehutra etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid, that a kohen gadol should be able to bring his carbon yachid even when he's tameh. And yet you took that for granted, that no kohen is allowed to bring a carbon yachid when he's tameh, not a kohen gadol, not a regular kohen. But applying this same logic, I can uproot that assumption. And thirdly, he says, v'lo tutar tuma etzel kohen hedyot b'karban tzibor mikal v'chomer. He says, I'll tell you that maybe this exemption that said b'mo'adam, that you bring them in their time, is only for a kohen gadol, and a kohen hedyot, even when it's a carbon tzibor, cannot bring it. How would he bring that raya? He says mikal v'chomer umma aninos shehutra etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid lo hutra etzel kohen hedyot b'karban tzibor. He says, you see by aninos that the kohen gadol can bring his carbon yachid, right? So it makes an exception by carbon yachid. It does not allow him to do a regular kohen cannot bring it by aninos even with tzibor. Then tuma shelo hutra etzel kohen gadol b'karban yachid. Then in a case of tuma where the kohen gadol, in other words, if you see by aninos that when the kohen gadol is able to do it b'yachid, he still can't do it a regular kohen hedyot by tzibor. So if you see by tuma, which even the kohen gadol is not allowed to do his carbon yachid, eino din shelo tutar b'kohen hedyot b'karban tzibor. So therefore, I would tell you that for sure that when there's an exception that says that the carbon tzibor can be brought even betuma, that would apply only to a kohen gadol, but not to a regular kohen, right? So basically, and now there's an acronym here, v'lo tusar v'lo tusar. So basically, Rava Bar Eloi had three things. The first one started lo tusar, then lo tusar. His first thing was trying to prove a point about aninos, then tuma, and then he was trying to prove something by aninos of a yachid, tuma of a yachid, and tuma of a tzibor. That was the order. But basically, Rava Bar Eloi is saying there's four things that the Torah doesn't distinguish. You took the first three for granted and didn't mess around with kal v'chomers, and the fourth you made a kal v'chomer. If you use that kind of logic, I can uproot the halachas that you implied from the first three. So therefore, Ella ikal mifrachachi ve'ikal mifrachachi. If you want to get involved with this kind of kal v'chomer, you can go any direction you want, and these things are actually contradictory between them. In other words, they contradict each other with their assumptions and with their outcomes. So he says, so therefore, kol chada v'chada teku b'duchte. He says, just take psukim at their face value. Don't mess with this business of trying to make kal v'chomer, because the logic of your kal v'chomers will uproot all four of these rules, and the rules make sense because the Torah says it and doesn't distinguish otherwise. And so therefore, Rava Bar Eloi said, don't make these kal v'chomers. I did have what to say, but I think even for the party among us, it's late. So.